everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to my channel. We are here for a stream party today. It's a matinee performance. We've got our movie candy at the ready. No, this post is not sponsored yet. So we'll explain what is going to be happening in just a second, but just to let you know who we are and what we're doing this for. My name is Margaret Pinard. I'm a historical fiction and fantasy writer, and I am half of the Authortube Writing Conference, which happens in June, and we're going to be having our third one next year. So this is in preparation for that. Shannon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shannon. I write under the pen name of SC Houston, and as Margaret said, one half of the Authortube Writing Conference. And I also have a YouTube channel under the name of SC Houston, where you can find out more about me and my self-publishing and writing journey, where I also publish a podcast there, Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks, with Ben Pick from Running to Write and Morgan Lee. I'm also, we just closed out the signups for Secret Santa, but tomorrow Hananya and I will be doing a live stream on my channel and her channel to do the live drawings. You'll just know who your Secret Santa is if you did that. And then we're going to be following that up with a couple of hours of writing sprints. So the first part's not going to take very long. I don't think it takes much more than hit a button on the website and then it's done. So it's just the official. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, Hananya found it and she was like, I can make this so much easier. I'm like, okay, awesome. Yeah.
Smarter, not harder. Thank you, Hananya.
Then I will also be opening up direct sales, and I'll be doing a live stream on my channel on Saturday. I still have to get that set up, but I will be doing a live stream to show off what I set up for my direct sales, answer any questions, and then I also will be doing a giveaway of the it's an ultimate digital bundle that's going to come with the ebook of A Curse of Scales and Feathers. So this is the paperback copy. So it's going to be an ebook copy of this, an ebook copy of the prequel novella, which is 27,000 words, an audiobook version of the prequel novella, and also a PDF file for the coloring book that follows the storyline in the story. And so I have two bundle deals with that. One's with the AI narrated character voices, and then the other one's me totally narrating everything.
Oh, right. Okay, so now we're honing in on the topic of the stream that we're going to be watching. Yep. So before we get started, I just thought I'd say, what is a stream party? Shannon had a 3-part deal to explain this. And it's basically, we've created something that is like a reaction video because we're going to be watching another person's YouTube video. And it's also a watch party because we're going to be here on the screen watching it while you out there can also watch it with us and we can comment and discuss and then have a little guest appearance at the end. And then the third part was a review because we figured people who are, I don't know what to do for the writing conference. What do I have to say? This is a great example, and we might be trotting out some more great examples to watch and discuss and sort of show people how it's done. So, yes, and just to celebrate a little thing of mine, I just hit 1,000 subscribers.
Yes, yay.
That has been like a long time push, and I'm so thankful for everyone who has shared out the content and, you know, just said nice things and made me feel supported in Authortube. It's amazing. So thank you. We're finally there, and I'll start sharing information about the trip I'm going to take. Okay, so we picked one of the AWC 2023 presentations. And Shannon, do you want to set up like how it relates to your current
sure.
content and MK's current content?
So we're doing MK Williams's video about narrating audiobooks, and that's not the title, but that's basically what it's about, to sum it up, which this is my first audiobook that I've narrated. And y'all, it does take a lot of time. When they say it takes time, it took me 3 months to do 27,000 words. So I'm like, how long is it going to take me to do my 140,000 word novel? So, but hopefully it'll get faster as I get used to what I'm doing and learning how to do it. But it's perfect. Her presentation was perfect because I was already thinking, those who know me, I think about things for a really long time. When you see me do something, I've already been thinking about it for a while. And so I've been thinking about doing my own audiobook since I published my first book, my debut. I thought this would be a great experiment to try the novella, which I was finishing up in July. And at the end of June is when MK did this presentation. So it was perfect timing for me to do my own audiobook.
Nice. and I just looked up this statistic real fast. The rate for each hour of completed audiobook recording, the narrator must spend 6.7 hours recording, editing, mastering, and for the author, that's also uploading, checking, editing.
Oh yeah, that did include. Yeah, mine was a whole lot more than that because I had 3 hours basically of content, so that's 18 hours or 21 hours almost.
Yeah. So this is what you're up against, and MK gave us a really great overview of like demystifying a bit of the process. And I was asked early on to make audiobook versions of my books because my dad doesn't want to read because his eyes got LASIK surgery and he doesn't want to ruin them. So he was like, give me an audio version. And I was like, Dad, it's thousands of dollars and I'm never going to make it back. And like, you just need to read my book. So I had originally like discounted that, but that was years ago. But I am listening to this presentation from the audiobook listener side. So Shanon doesn't listen to audiobooks regularly, but I do. If you're on this channel, you know I constantly refer to my love for Libro.fm. So, so I'll be chiming in with some reactions on that end and like, I don't know, tasty nuggets of information, let's say. So last thing before we pop up the presentation was I just wanted to remind people that we have 8 days left to get in your pitches for the conference. So I'm just going to share the application links. We've got guest speaker, we've got speaker, and we've got the guide to help you like walk through it and be convincing in your telling us that you know stuff. And like, we should tell other people to listen to you. That's all we want to do is share and learn together. So those are the links I just popped in the chat. And 8 days next Friday. So chop, chop. We love the ones we've already seen.
And please tell, remind people too, even if you're not presenting, but you like the AWC, tell other people, hey, I need you to present. I want you to present. Get your application in.
Yes.
Because hint, we don't have enough applications at the moment.
Yeah, I think we're like a little past a third of like what we want. So yeah, hoping to get a lot this week. So Shannon's got popcorn and a Coke. Jim is here. Just Eva is here. RC Scott, Eloise Barr. Welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Felicia, lovely to see you. And someone's worked it out. Eloise. So a $200 finished hour is actually $30 per hour worked. Gotta love that per hour rate, right? Yes.
I believe so as well, to Eva's comment that it should be a rush in the final days. We do tend to get more in the final days. But, from our perspective, it's like, okay, are we going to have an AWC?
Right. Tenterhooks. So put us out of our misery. And I think we're ready to dive in if you're ready to pop up presentation. And we're just going to be saying, okay, stop at various points and then discussing some of the stuff. So if you've got a question or comment, pop it into the chat and we'll include it in our discussion. All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Many new authors don't have the budget to hire a professional narrator.
That's going too fast.
You're stuck on sped up. Revealed to the world.
Or audiobook producer.
Sorry. Yeah.
In this presentation, I'm going to walk authors through the process to prepare their audiobook script, how to record it in Audacity, and then mastering the files so they are approved by ACX or Findaway Voices to self-publish their audiobook. I taught myself how to do this the hard way. Learning these skills can help you save time and money on your author journey. At the end of this presentation, you'll have an idea of whether this is the right option for you and your book. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome to the 2023 Authortube Writing Conference.
I'm sorry, I've got this pulled up on the other screens. I don't know if you're telling me. Did you say stop?
Yeah. So I'm popping in for the review here. What did MK do that was so marvelous here at the beginning that you can like take notes for in your formatted presentation?
Yeah, I mean, she gave a quick overview of what she was doing. And actually, this is the way she starts with all of her videos, which is good practices for YouTube in general. And so I really liked how she just gave an overview of what she's, what it is and why you should watch it.
I like how she broke down the different things. I never knew what mastering actually was, so she explains that, and so that was good for me. And also, like, having a little intro. Shannon's good at the intros. Books by Adrian is like the king of intros, but you can do something really simple. And a lot of you out there, I know that you've done intros and done a bang up job. So kudos. Keep it up. Good to go.
My name is MK Williams. I'm an author and independent publisher. I love sharing my insights all about self-publishing with you. The theme of this year is all about technology, and today we're going to dive into the nitty-gritty of self-producing an audiobook. When you self-produce, you also do the audio mixing and sometimes the narration too. Many new authors don't have the budget to hire a professional narrator or audiobook producer. Before we go any further, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. I know you're enjoying all this really great Authortube Writing Conference content, but I have a lot of really great content I also put on my channel every week about books, publishing, all the things about making an author career, okay? Today, we're going to go over how you, an author and not a voice professional, could record and self-produce your own audiobook. If you are an audiophile, this is not the presentation for you. If you are a professional narrator, please comment with your services below in the comment box.
Okay,
because
stop. Wait, you're muted. You don't need to mute. I don't think you're making much noise with your popcorn.
I don't want to be like crunchy in people's ear.
That's all right. We're there for the full surround sound experience, right, everybody?
All right.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say, I knew you were going to say stop there because I knew that you had some narrators that you wanted to plug.
Yeah, actually, for this part, I'm going to drop a link in. So y'all probably don't know, but since the summer, I've been working for Audiophile magazine, but it's with F, not with a PH, like what she was saying. So they're a magazine. Yeah, I need a flag, always. Like the red flag dude on TikTok. Audiophile magazine is a magazine that is built around reviews for audiobooks. So they know a bunch of narrators, they know a bunch of publishers, and that's their sort of bread and butter, is that they have reviewers and they have an editorial magazine where they talk about all the things in the audiobook industry. So their website right here has a talent guide. And, it's out of the reach of most of us to pay people that amount of money because they're professionals. But since MK indicated that she was interested in people dropping their links, I was like, well, if you really want to study up on like sounds and different accents and like be able to describe what you want your narrator to do, even if they're like someone just starting out who is more affordable for you, this guide, the talent guide on Audiophile magazine, is fabulous. If you've listened to an audiobook and heard someone that you like and you're like, I want it to be like them, you can look up their name, look up what they've done, look up the genres, and like get more informed on the topic. And maybe if you're doing it yourself, you can even sort of steal some of their technique, right? You can sort of educate yourself about the rhythms that you like and maybe train yourself to go more that direction. So I'm just putting a plug in here for my employer because they're pretty awesome. And yeah, that's my thing for this point.
Even a few authors watching this,
sorry, go ahead,
will in fact realize that this is too much to manage on their own and they may want to hire you. Also, any notes or tips are appreciated. I don't see self-publishing as an end to professional narration. We need professionals. I know my self-narrated audiobooks do not sound as good as those that were done professionally, but I've learned a lot in the process. I keep getting better each time. It also helps me find typos in the content to correct before publication. And I
want to say that is so true. I already have my stuff published out to my Kickstarter backers, but in doing my audiobook, I'm like, oh, I spelled that wrong. Like I did, like the word flare was F-L-A-I-R and I meant F-L-A-R-E. But because I was listening to the audio and watching each word to make sure that the audio picked it up, I was like, that really makes you look at the words a different way. And miss words too.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I don't know if you've ever gone with a proofreader who's someone different than yourself. I've done it a couple times, but I've also just used myself a couple times, which might help. Oh, yeah.
Always have the option to do a second edition of the audiobook with a voice actor. Now, because this is pre-recorded, I'm going to be answering questions in the chat right over here. And I'll continue to answer questions in the comment section below. All right. Today, we're going to go over the actual production of the audiobook. Why do you even want to have an audiobook and which platforms to pick from? I have videos on that up here. How to actually upload. Yep, more tutorials on that up here. I'm going to have links above and below for both. So if you want that information, save those to watch later. Let's dive in. The first is your script preparation. You might think, well, the script, that's just my book, duh. Well, is it? For fiction authors, are you planning to voice the different accents for your characters? You'll need to prepare a bit. And if you're doing a different voice for each character, you'll need to practice and have a clear guide for which voice is which. If all your male characters sound the same, you're going to need to keep in all the dialogue tags explaining who's speaking and when. Generally, you'll be acting out the dialogue tags. So if your character voices are distinct enough, you don't have to say, "Wait," Sally whispered.
I'm a little bit confused about this part because, and this is a question I'm going to ask her later when she comes on, because I've heard that your audiobook has to match your ebook. Like Amazon is really big on that the audiobook has to match what the ebook has. So maybe there's a percentage that can be different. I don't know, but that's definitely a question I had about, because I put all my dialogue tags in there.
Yeah, reading it straight off. That is a great question. And this is where I'm just going to remind people, you can write in your own questions if you're curious, or if you're going through the process, pop them in the chat. Yeah, script prep. It's like another version of translation.
Right.
Oh, goody.
You can just say, "Wait," in your Sally voice. For nonfiction authors, you might be thinking you're getting off easy because you don't have many voices in your book. But you're not getting off easy. Why? Because so many of you rely on graphs and charts and images that cannot be seen in an audiobook. Referencing, as you'll see on the next page, nope, we won't see anything. It's an audiobook. You need to go through the manuscript and search for above, below, see, and all references that make sense when someone is reading a book, and amend that for an audiobook. So as you'll see on the next page, should become as we'll discuss next. If you have a lot of graphs and images that you want users to be able to access, create a separate unlisted web page that references and directs listeners to this page. Make it short and sweet, like website.com/graphs or website.com/images.
I actually did that with my glossary.
Now that your script is ready, you may need to make sure you are set up to record. For the recording setup itself, you're going to need a microphone. Again, I'm not an audiophile, so I'm sure there are AV nerds out there who are screaming at the screen right now that there's a better option. Yeah, there probably is, but these options work too. I've recorded in audiobooks with this microphone right here, the ATR 2100 with my little sound muff. And I've also recorded on a blue Snowball and a blue Yeti.
I have the blue Snowball, and I think it does a really good job because I've done classes in the past that I've sold online. And I would have to make my space really, compact, and then, cover it with blankets and stuff so that I wouldn't have that sound, the echo. And I think she just talked about that a little bit later, but I don't remember. But the blue Snowball is what I have here, which is the microphone is on the front, and you can have it, the direction, you can tell it which way to go. And so I have it as this narrow field on me, and it doesn't catch a lot of alternate, other sounds in the background. And what it does capture, I'm able to easily take out with the program that she's going to talk about later too. So.
It doesn't look blue to me.
Yeah, it's not blue. Mine's silver, but still not blue. I don't know where the name came from, but
truth in advertising. Come on.
But mine was less than $100, so it's a really cheap microphone compared to some of the ones that are have really, really big price tags on them.
And these are USB, right? So you're plugging them into whatever your device of choice is. Okay.
Which I've heard that USB is not the best connection to have when you're trying to record something.
I've heard that too.
Mine sounds okay, I think. Yeah. So.
These are really great and fairly affordable USB plug-in microphones. Do not use your cell phone. Do not use the built-in microphone on your computer. You're going to have to invest a little bit in your hardware. For the software, I use Wondershare Filmora. It's actually the same software that I use to record my videos right now. I just record audio only. I paid for the lifetime access back in 2019. But you can use Audacity for free. And that is the software I'm going to show you today. And any edits that you may need to make that come from ACX or Find a Way Voices, they're likely going to give you the instructions for how to go exactly to Audacity and make the change, okay? Next, we're going to talk about your location to be ready to record.
Okay, stop.
Obviously, don't record next.
So before we go into the recording setup, I was like, okay, flag for me, because when I hear Audacity, that sounds very close to ACX. And so I was like, is that owned by Amazon? But Shanon knew and was able to tell me, no, it's not owned by Amazon. It's actually an open source software or app online. So for those of you who, like me, are avoiding Amazon as much as possible, Audacity does seem to be an industry leader for this, and they're open source. And so that makes me feel a lot better about people using it. And, you know, possibly using it myself.
And people develop apps or login.
Plugin.
They develop plugins for Audacity, and Audacity is free. It's not associated. What she's just saying is that because Audacity has been around for a really long time, I used it to do my course back in 2013. That's when I first got it. So it's been around for a really long time. And because it's been around for so long and it has remained an open source, there are tons and tons of videos out there that will tell you anything and everything you want to do with Audacity. So what she's saying is if you're wanting to upload to Amazon and ACX, there's going to be videos or information out there you'll be able to find on Audacity specifically to upload to audiobook platforms.
Cool.
Hi, Rachel. And I use Audacity. I don't use Wondershare more. I use Audacity.
To your washing machine while it's running, or next to your AC handler when the AC is kicking on. Find a quiet space in your home. This may be a closet with lots of clothes surrounding you for padding. Not perfect, not a professional recording studio, but better than nothing. When you are recording, assume that if you can hear a noise like a plane flying overhead, a neighbor mowing the lawn, or washing machine running, that your microphone can pick it up too. Wait to record until the noise is gone. Or if you're speaking and hear the plane fly over, stop talking. Wait for the plane to fly away, then start speaking again. Same goes for if you are advancing your script with your mouse. The scroll wheel makes noise. Effectively, don't talk while any outside noise is going on.
Yeah, I didn't remember that part when I first started recording, and I had lots of mouse noises.
So I learned my existence. I have to keep like slamming it on the mouse pad because it doesn't go fast enough. I don't know what's wrong with it, but yeah.
I just started using the direction keys on my keyboard because I can press that more softly.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
All these like shortcuts. It's perfect.
Oops.
Okay, so when it comes to actually recording, to that end, you'll be the only one who knows if you have to hit pause because you'll cut that noise later. I'll show you how to do that. Same goes for any errors. Stop, pause, take a breath, and retake that line. In general, make sure that you're well hydrated, not just having water right before you record, but all day. Stay hydrated so you don't get this mouthy sound.
I found that I need to be hydrated from the day before in order to stop this from happening. So it didn't matter if I was hydrating that day. That wouldn't affect it. If I didn't hydrate the day before, then I'd start getting that mouthy. And I'm like, okay, I gotta stop.
It's like the liquid vacuum or some kind of like suction noise. Yeah, exactly. Just Eva. Ew.
Yeah.
I like to record for only 30 minutes at a time. If I go for longer than that, my attention to voice and tone just fade. I get bored. I start to rush. Don't rush. Go slower than you think you need to. Remember, the listener, when they're listening to the final produced audiobook, they can hit the 2x speed when the book is done. But if you're kind of rushing in some spaces and slower in others, it makes for a bad listening experience. The number one thing I want you to remember is to smile. Take a breath, and then 3, 2, 1, recording.
That's another question I have that I'm going to ask her about because I did know about the whole smiling because I did that for my course that I did for my online class I sold. You know, make sure you smile before you start recording. But do you do that if you're writing like a murder scene?
Like a dramatic death scene, right?
Yeah. Like, and he fell over. He was dead.
She collapsed against the window screen and clutched at the curtain before falling stone cold to the floor. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
All right, now we're going to dive into actually how we're going to record in Audacity. All right, so once you have Audacity set up, this is what it looks like. It's super basic. It looks kind of a little web 1.0, but you know what? It gets the job done. It doesn't need to look fancy. Now, I mentioned that I also record using Wondershare Filmora. It's the same software I use to record videos, and I can just record audio on it. But I use Audacity a lot when I'm editing and mastering my files anyways. So sometimes it's a lot easier if I just go ahead and record here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how you would go about doing that. Now, I don't know if it's going to let me record the screen cap while I'm also recording in Audacity. So if it doesn't let me do that, then I will find a way to still show you how everything works. All right, so here you have your file. Obviously, save file name, make edits, and there's a lot of other effects. Now, there is apparently, I've heard this from several authors, that you can purchase an add-on with your effects that would just say, make this Amazon KDP ready. I did not purchase that. And again, a lot of you, if you're starting out, are probably trying to save some money on these productions. So I don't have that to show you, but I'm going to show you everything else. So first of all, I'm going to start a recording. Simple as that, just to show you from there, and then we're going to edit it together, okay? Okay, so before getting started, I'm actually going to adjust my recording up here to mono.
Did you say stop?
I did. So this is another like review presentation point when she says, there is this plugin that exists. It can save you time. I didn't get it. And for those people who want to like cut down on costs, here's what you can do as well as anyone else who wants to spend the money. So she acknowledges that there are other things available, showing her expertise, but then also is showing like how she does it, which I think is very transparent and very useful. So in a presentation, it doesn't bring you down to say that you don't have all the bells and whistles. It actually tells people that there are options and then shows how you did it, which is proof in the pudding to me. So I really appreciate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you did say something about the I don't know if my I don't see my comment. I think I just commented something, but I don't see it come up. But oh no, it came up as you.
Yeah, because you're from my StreamYard account.
Whoops, I forgot. OBS for screen recording. So OBS is also free. It's a little less intuitive, but not hard to learn. I guess there's videos about it. But Audacity is really, I mean, honestly, if you know how to click and look at drop-down menus, a lot of this is intuitive for what you need to do. Even the stuff that she's showing ahead of time, I would say this, the stuff that she's showing ahead of time, what you should make sure you do for the files. If you don't remember to do it or you don't think about it, when you go to master your files and you run it through audio, the ACX Audio Lab, which she's going to talk about later, you're going to be told then, hey, this is what you need to do and this is how you can do it.
Right.
And, oh, if I would have done that from the beginning, you know. So I think it's all a matter of just learning. Like she said, everything was trial and error for her, and she's kind of bringing it all up front for us, so we don't make the same errors. But know that even if you make a mistake or step here, you can still recover.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. Okay.
Instead of stereo. Now, ACX or Findaway Voices, they want all your files to be one type, either mono or stereo. Now, stereo is the idea where you're going to hear some things on the left, you're going to hear some things on the right, and it can be a more engaging experience if somebody's listening with headphones, but it may not be consistent for everybody. So I prefer to do things in mono. Yes, it flattens the sound, but everybody gets the same experience regardless of the devices that they're using to listen with. So I always like to record in mono. Now up here, you're going to hit the red to record. And when you're done recording, you're going to hit stop. And if you want to play back, you're going to hit play. So some of that is a little intuitive, but I want to make sure that you're aware. So I'm going to go ahead and record as though I am recording the opening credits to my audiobook. Now the opening credits and closing credits are required. For the opening credits, you need to say the title, the author's name, the narrator's name, in this case, you're both, the copyright year and the audio copyright year, all rights reserved. And then for your closing credits, you have to say the end and reiterate those items. So I'm going to show you right now how we would record that, and then we're going to cut it, okay? Interview with a van lifer. Oh, that didn't sound right. Interview with a van lifer. Written and read by Mary Kate Williams. Written and narrated by M.K. Williams.
Okay,
Copyright 2022. Audio copyright.
Okay, not only was this my first time hearing MK's full name, which I thought was a fun, like a little peek behind the stage. It was fun. But again, I really liked how she was like, okay, I tried something that didn't work. Do over. I tried something. Wait, that's not what I wanted. Do over. And she's showing you her process. And like, I think that makes it so much more accessible. It doesn't bring down the level of expertise. It's being transparent and like showing you how she learned. So I love that.
I also just realized that I said written by S.E. Houston, narrated by S.E. Houston. I could have just shortcut it and just said written and narrated by S.E. Houston.
It's okay.
And I was like, oh, I didn't remember her shortcutting that, and I should have done the same thing.
Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier my links for narrators. So if you are curious about narrators and the skill set that it takes, there's a couple that are like my favorites that I follow on TikTok because they're really funny.
Oh, I love Laura Horowitz. I follow her on IG.
Yes.
She just started her YouTube channel too, but it doesn't have all the same. She doesn't have all the same videos. Her
differentiating. I mean, that's smart. Differentiating on different platforms is smart. But Laura Horowitz, I think she does a lot of like spicy romance. And so like she'll crack herself up listening to something. She also recently posted a TikTok that was like, do you ever cry over the emotional content that you're narrating? And she did. She caught herself in one of these passages where she'd been with this story for hundreds of pages and like the crux of the moment was just too much and she just stopped narrating because it was too much. And I was like, that's what I feel like when I try to sing some super emotional musical number and I'm just like verklempt. It was like, she's really cool.
One of her previous videos, she talks about too how, well, she doesn't talk about it. What she does is she takes a question. The question from the audience is, do you read the books ahead of time before you narrate them? She says, nope, nuh-uh. I go in it cold. And she's completely sarcastic about it, but it's just funny. She's like, sarcastic. She's like, I don't prepare at all. I don't know ahead. It's all a surprise to me. Nope. I have no idea if there's a duplicate word or something, whatever it is, she says, but you can tell she's being sarcastic, but I really like her.
Because when you talk about script prep as the author narrating your own work, you're talking about taking words out that are related to like nonfiction graphs or dialogue tags if you want to do it that way or whatever. But when narrators talk about script prep, what they're talking about is what I was doing with dramatic readings, like way back in the early days of my channel. I have a few videos where I was like reading sections of either my books or books I was reading. And if I didn't practice, like there would be word transitions or like gaps or periods where I'd be like, ooh, I didn't say that right. My rhythm is off and now it sounds weird on the video. Great. So I had to practice several times in advance. And that's what the narrators obviously do. If you've listened to No Two Persons, a book by Erica Bauermeister, so good. She actually goes into a couple people who are audiobook narrators. And so I got an inside look at someone preparing a script as like a newbie in the industry and learned a lot from a fiction book about people in the book industry. So definitely recommend that for anyone like curious.
I think what Rachel said was funny. She said, even if I narrate my work, I couldn't ever.
I have a voice that sounds like the mutant love child of a goat and a goose. Oh my goodness.
Character voice. How would you describe that one as a character voice?
Yeah.
We were talking about, Margaret and I were talking about how to describe different voices.
Yeah. I don't know. That sounds like a talent. I think you should hire yourself out. It sounds like you could get work in some certain niches. Okay.
2023. All rights reserved. All right. Now we're going to go back through. As you can see, I did not like how I pronounced that the first time. So I'm going to want to cut that. And I did a clap. Now you'll see this really loud peak here. I'm not an AV expert, but in general, the ACX and Finder Voices don't like it when these peaks are touching the end. All right. It means it's too loud. It's too much. But for me, it's a really nice place to know, oh, I messed up here. Oh, I didn't like how I said that here. So I am actually going to go and listen back. I can hit play and I can know where I'm going to go ahead and cut. So this is very helpful to do those claps. Sorry if I hurt your ears when I did that. But that is a way for me to know And you'll notice I hovered over the stop before I actually stopped the recording. That's going to come into play later. This is a moment to grab your pencils. So you have to have 0.5 minutes or 30 seconds of what's called room tone before the start of every chapter.
I just wanted to stop there because I think she meant 0.5 seconds. I think that's what she meant there, not the minutes. I accidentally did leave like 10 seconds after one of my files when I ran it through the audio lab, and it came back and said, this was in the last day. And it said, you have more than 5 seconds at the end of your clip. You need to.
Oh, okay. It doesn't like that. Yeah.
It doesn't accept it. Yeah. So in this case, because I rewatched this like a week ago, whatever it was, we met last Saturday. So not quite a week ago. And I was like, I don't think it's supposed to be 30 minutes or seconds, or 30, whatever it was. It's supposed to be, not 30 seconds, but half a second, not 30 seconds. Yeah.
And I would say, okay, so 5 seconds sounds like too much. So I'll agree with the Audio Lab recommendation on that. But as a listener, as a longtime listener to this radio show, I will confess, I do listen to things faster. So YouTube videos are different from audiobooks. Audiobooks, I'm out in the world. I can usually listen to something only at 1.1 or 1.2, but that little bit of like a 15-hour book will shave off an hour. So I can read it faster. And it doesn't really make a difference in understanding for me. There's just like less space between words. And I'm sorry if that offends their artistry, but when I listen at 1.1 or 1.2, that severely shrinks the space that they're giving. So I would say err like on the extra side, because when I am listening and not watching something, and it's not obvious that you're going to a next chapter or a next paragraph, or you've skipped a couple like return spaces. So the visual cue, if you're reading the book, would be, oh, we're at a different place, or oh, we've slept over the night, or oh, this is a different narrator even. And sometimes you don't get that cue because it's too fast and you think it's just a paragraph break. So I would just say that's my 2 cents on the space between tracks, and to maybe at the end give it an extra 1.5 seconds or something. So
I think I made mine altogether. It's a half a second. Half a second at the beginning and end. So it's a full second between all of them.
We'll see when I end up listening to them. My feedback.
And 1 minute to 2 minutes of room tone at the end. Now, I think 2 minutes is way too long for room tone, but you need to have some room tone at the end that kind of ends the chapter before the next one begins. So it's not just boom, right away, one's cutting into the next. So we're going to also cut that. So we're going to cut out the parts that I didn't like, because that's the whole part, is you have to listen back and edit it. And you have to make sure you have your room tone and your sound correct. Now that we have our audio file, we need to edit in Audacity. Now, some people do what's called punch and roll. They edit as they record. That's a really pro skill, and there's some really fancy elevated softwares that let you do that. I'm not a pro, and I don't have that software. So I just record all the way through, and then I go back through and listen, and I cut out my edits. One thing you can do is to do a clap. And it makes a really big audio wave, so you can see, oh, there's something around here I needed to cut. So you'll see it on the sound wave, and if something happened here. And you'll hear me say, yes, I had to re-listen to the whole thing, to the edits. Yeah, you need to listen to the whole thing. Just like with your self-publishing books, you have to read it multiple times to self-edit it.
I listened to my audiobook all the way through twice after doing the initial audio. So I'm listening to it as I'm doing it, and I'm re-listening to it, editing it, listening, because I don't know what the punch and roll, what that looks like exactly, but as I was doing it, I was editing it. And then I listened to it all the way through, and then I listened to it all the way through again.
And this made me want to ask if you get beta listeners. Mm-hmm. So that's one of my questions for MK at the end. Is that a separate process? Are you doing this at the same time as a book release? Because she's touched on that before as well. So interested to ask that.
That'd be a good question. I want to know that too.
You're going to have to self-edit your audiobook. You have to listen to the whole thing. So if you don't want to listen to the whole thing, don't even make an audiobook, because even if you hire a professional, you have to listen to it to make sure it's correct. Okay. Now I'm going to be going over some production tips. Now, in general, you don't want to hit your audio peaks too close to the edge. You need to have room noise at the edge. You need to look out for your decibels. And I'm also going to show you Audio Lab. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I didn't like that at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is
So she said room noise. I think she meant room tone. But I was going to point to Deidre's comment about character voices and what actually MK is doing sort of naturally in this video, because she's been a pro at this for a while, and she's modulating her tone. So at the important information times, she's slowing it down to make sure everything she says is crystal clear, right? But then she's also giving you a little sass and like changing the tone of her voice. And it's kind of like those things that Shanon, you were telling us, I think in Discord, that like these help people stay engaged, like change the camera angle, zoom in, zoom out, those things that like change every so often. The visual of the video on YouTube is the same sort of approach that you would take to audio. You don't need character voices. You don't need to be Juliet Stevenson, who's like amazing, to modulate your voice so that there's ebbs and flows, or whatever, phrase you want to use. And so that's really valuable for audiobooks. Even though I haven't made one. What do you think? Yes?
I wish I would have known that point before I did my audiobook.
Good point. Noted. All right, everyone with your pencils on it.
Do you see what Eloise, I don't know.
All of these important points are really selling me on hiring a professional. Well, see comment above with the talent guide from Audiophile magazine. But yeah.
And I mean, MK says at the very beginning, this is not for everybody. So
yeah. You just got to pick your battles is, I think, the lesson, the takeaway.
literally going to click right here where I have this clap that I didn't like. I'm just going to highlight this whole part here, and I'm going to hit edit, cut, or I can hit Control X. Boom. I don't want it. Now I made sure I still had enough space here for the room tone so I could get that done. I know I didn't like how I said my name, so I'm going to cut that as well. Edit, cut. Again, you can use Control X. Boom. I think there's probably a little too much space there between those two. So
delete. I don't know if that delete works on every computer. I just hit delete.
Right.
And cut.
Your mileage may vary on PCs and Mac.
Yeah. Now I'm going to listen back. Oh, I need that. All right.
Interview with a Van Lifer. Written and narrated by M.K. Williams. Copyright 2022. Audio copyright 2023. All rights reserved.
Cool. All right. That's
Interview with.
Gotta hit pause. All right. That sounds pretty good to me. Now, it does sound a little tinny. I'm using a blue snowball microphone to record right now, which is usually fine for when I do these screen captures for you. I would not pick this. I'm also facing a wall and I have the whole open room behind me. Again, this is not ideal situation. What I would usually want to do is actually be in a corner, have the walls kind of surrounding me, and actually have some nice fabric, which is why I say a closet can be a really great place if you don't have the money yet to invest in getting a little recording closet at home. You can hear it sounds really tinny, and that's because I have all this open space behind me for everything to bounce off of. But for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going ahead with that. Now, what I want to do is I want to make sure I have this really short room tone here at the beginning, so I can look and see if I go right here, I am at... and it's even showing me where I have my selection. And I'm looking at this right down here. So I can see, hey, all right, I have, that's audio position. So I am at 1.2 seconds when this starts. I'm going to cut off half of that. So that should get me a good amount of that room tone time, but not be too much. Okay, so now it's showing that it's starting at this 0.49 seconds. I actually want to cut just a little bit more.
To the bone. Oh, my light.
This is where she's also, I don't know. Oh, wait.
Sorry, the sun came out.
This is also where she talks about the half a second and where versus the 30 seconds in the previous shot. So yeah.
So I'm going to cut just a little bit more there. And now it's starting at 0.3 seconds. Perfect. I love that. That should be more than enough room tone at the beginning there. And I liked everything else. So I'm actually going to go to the end here. And I'm going to right to the very last part where I see that wave. So it says the audio position is at 13.16 seconds. So I literally want this to end at 14.16 seconds. So I'm going to move this. All right, so I've highlighted everything, and now I'm going to drag this till I get to 14.16, which you can see it's adjusting on the bottom. Okay, that's pretty darn close, and that should get me the amount of room tone that I need. So I'm going to hit cut. Okay, and now I have my opening credits. So what I want to do is I want to hit File, Save, always save the project. And it always opens up in Audacity, so I can navigate elsewhere on my desktop. I usually like to keep everything on a separate thumb drive for the book, audio files, original files, mastered files, final files, like lots of subfolders. So this is okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to export as an MP3. So the self-publishing platforms require this as an MP3 file. So I'm going to export as an MP3. Okay. Credit example. All right. Do you definitely want to have your quality at this 256 or higher? Lower than that, it will be rejected. And you want a constant bit rate. Yeah. So the official requirements is that you must have a quality of 192 kbps or higher. So the 256 gets you that. And you have to have a constant bit rate, not a variable bit rate. Okay, so constant bit rate is very important. And again, this is already in mono. If it was in stereo, I could say force export to mono. And sometimes I see this, and I even did this myself when I first recorded audiobooks, was I would record it. I didn't realize I was recording in stereo, or I would record in one spot and then I'd be editing it in Audacity and be like, oh, I just need to add one thing and add it in. First of all, that doesn't sound very good. And then all of a sudden it was converting from stereo to mono and back, and then it kept getting kicked back. So you really want to make sure if everything is in mono, it's in mono. If everything is in stereo, it's in stereo, and just be really consistent with that. Cool. And it takes negligible.
And so this is where I did have one chapter that I did that was in stereo, and it did tell me that all my chapters were not the same. So, but it was easy to do. All I had to do is go back into my Audacity project. I opened it back up and I said, save as mono. So it was really easy to do. As I said, if you forget to do something when you're doing this, when you do your mastering, usually you can fix it on the back end, and it doesn't affect the quality in any way.
Mm-hmm. So, and this like reminds me of the editing in iMovie, like for video production, video editing. So pretty similar, like intuitive format. But what I wish we had that exists in this is Audiolab for Scrivener. So like when I export from Scrivener to get like the perfect formatted interior, I have learned like a variety and a maze, all the little tips and tricks and all the different ways I can screw up, and like how one chapter can be different from another. And I have to figure out which one I want to change and how many changes does that lead to make it uniform. And it can be a big headache. But like if someone at the end told me, you can change this, like how easy would that be? So right. Cheers to Audiolab for doing that, for
making it easy.
Yeah.
And it's a free program. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful program.
Time to export opening credits because they are so small. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you the ACX Audiolab, where I'm actually going to go and I'm going to upload this file, and I'm going to see, hey, does this like meeting the requirements? Is it not loud enough? Other things that I just can't see here. Okay, so this is ACX Audiolab. Now, again, if you're saying, well, I only want to submit through Findaway Voices, and that's how I want to get my distribution to Audible and Amazon, that's totally fine. I find that with this Audiolab, if the files are going to be approved through ACX, they're going to be approved through Findaway Voices. They have similar requirements, and that's why I always kind of default to ACX, because they have always been much more persnickety, as you might say, about the files. So I know if it's good through ACX, it'll be good through Findaway Voices and vice versa. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. All right, I'm going to find an audio file and upload it. Okay, so I have to navigate to my Audacity file to find that where I saved it. Oh, look, there's the project, and then there's the MP3. So you obviously want to be analyzing the MP3 output. Okay, open.
It won't do the project. I accidentally clicked on that.
Oh, whoops.
And it tells you right here what it's going to analyze it for, peak levels, bit rate, anything like that. And look, it says that my volume is too low. RMS, I actually don't know what it stands for, but I know it's the volume. The volume is too low. And it's telling me exactly what I need to do. Raise the level of the file by 1.9 decibels. Okay, that's super helpful. So I'm actually now going to go back into Audacity. I'm going to double click here and it selects everything. So from that gray to this light blue, I'm going to Effect, Amplify. Okay, now it says I can get the amplification up by 3.9 decibels. I only need it to go up by 1.9. So I'm going to do that right now, 1.9. Ooh, look at those waves. They look a little bit bolder now. So I'm going to go ahead and save.
No math needed. Love it.
Yeah. Save. And then I'm going to export. Yes, another one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save over the existing file. I know the other file wasn't acceptable. I don't want to keep it. I don't want it anywhere near getting messed up when I go to actually upload.
Right?
Yes, it already exists. You can replace it. That's fine.
Yeah. Scrivener, again, shades of Scrivener.
Now, what I usually like to do is run everything through Audiolab. You can actually upload multiple files at a time and actually export an Excel sheet of all the edits you have to make and then just go back and do those. So I say usually master, edit the files the way you like them to sound. And then what you're going to do, this part is called mastering the file, where you're actually going to go through, analyze it, make these little tweaks and go from there.
Okay, stop.
Okay, so I'm going back into this one now.
It's okay if it's late. I just liked that I had the mastering definition. So what sounded so highfalutin to me, I was like, oh, it's just audio editing. Mastering just means fiddling with the dials to make sure everything's within the given range, has like the same magnification, the same rate, whatever is within the parameters. So it's taking in this case, the ACX Audio Lab notes and making editing changes in Audacity and then re-uploading it. And I was like, oh, okay. I could do that.
I know. I tried to give you the definition, my definition of it, and you kept looking at me like, what?
Mastering. I mean, it just sounds so like Masters of the Universe, you know? Like, okay, we got this.
As you can see, I can download this report. It produces an Excel file that would tell me the same thing. I've done this before where I was doing an entire book and I had 10 chapters that all needed different things. So I just downloaded the report, made the edits, re-uploaded them. So I'm going to go ahead and analyze another file, which is, surprise, surprise, the same file. Now it's interesting. It's leaving the old information here for me. So I just have to remember in my mind, like, that one's not accurate anymore. I had to go to the other one.
Good point.
No issues found. And that's exactly what we want to see. So then when you actually go to upload the audiobook files, which I have entire videos on that you can check out another time, I can go ahead and upload, and I should not be getting any of those little red caution signs. Now, what's interesting is, say you decide, MK, I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go ahead and upload. What it'll do is, if you do have any issues, it's pretty much going to produce this same kind of output saying, hey, this file isn't going to go through. It's too loud. It's not loud enough. The peaks are hitting. So that's where I was showing you these audio wavelength peaks before. If the peaks are too high up here, they're about to touch the edges, they'll actually call that out and they'll ask you to reduce those, which you could literally just highlight this section. And again, this is an as example. This time it wasn't the case, but I could just highlight this section and say, I don't want it to be this loud. And I could do negative 1.0, minus 1 decibel, and look, it shrunk. So that is one thing you can keep in mind as well. Other things you can do, which might come in handy if you're doing maybe a podcast but not an audiobook, is this click removal. So sometimes when people drink too much water before
this is the cringe part,
they record, you get that clicking sound. I know it's really annoying. I know some of you are cringing right now, and that's why there is click removal. You can just automatically do that. Click removal. Cool. Take out my clicks. Oh, look at that. You see how a few things went away?
Magic.
So it actually automatically.
I will actually sometimes, if I notice a lot of things wrong with my audio when I'm doing a video, I will save the video as just an audio, put it into Audacity, clean it up, and then put it back into the video.
It takes that out.
Except for
so that way you don't get that cringiness. I would say if you're recording the audiobook, if you don't like how it sounds, I would actually just go and re-record it instead of doing the click removal on everything. Make sure your voice is really primed. And if you find your voice is getting a little hoarse, if you feel like you need to take big gulps of water because you're getting dry, like that's a good time. Stop recording for the day. Make sure you're hydrated. Come back another time so you don't get those clicks at all. But
okay, stop.
If you need to remove the clicks, go ahead and remove the clicks.
So my marathoning friend over here who's been on streams that are like 3 hours long regularly, or 4 or 5, whatever, how do you manage that? Like, you said you had one day of not hydrating and it like blew the roof off the next day, but when you're on streams every day for 3 hours and you're talking at intervals, but how do you manage to have like ice cream at night? Like, no, bad. So what's your tips for, I don't know, diet choices? And the light is once again in my face. Sorry, guys.
Mainly it's just staying hydrated. And for me, it's being hydrated the day before, hydrating the day before for the day that I need. And then I will have to say, like, when I come back, I'm taking a month break from mid-December to mid-January. When I come back after that first week, I'm going to be hoarse because I'll not be talking. And I cannot be talking.
Yeah, out of practice.
Out of practice. So I think the more you do it, the more you practice. It's easier. So.
Okay. Don't strain your voice, right? I get weird shorts popping up, and one of them was about like people warming up, like Meryl Streep and Emily Blunt and Anne Hathaway were all talking about goo goo gaga warm up exercises. I was like, why am I watching this at 3 a.m? So yeah, click removal. Got it. Perfect.
Clicks. So that's another thing you can do. And those are the main things that I end up using here to be able to get this to work. I hope this was helpful. So that is how you adjust your file so that they're going to be ACX compliant. Now, in general, if something is compliant with ACX, I always get it approved by Findaway Voices too.
And I would say I just found this to be really good because I'm putting all my files on BookFunnel and my audiobooks going on BookFunnel to sell direct through PayHip. And they also go through a process where they're approving your files. And it says it could take 5 hours or more. And I've always had my files come back in less than a half hour saying it was good to go. So.
Nice.
All right. That's how you do it. Seems easy, right? Okay. Give yourself a lot of patience and time to learn this. You're not going to get it right the first time. That's okay. Maybe start recording your shortest chapters first, even if it means they're out of order. Get a handle on the system. Then when you're done, you can go back and record those very first chapters so that way they sound nicer based on the skills you've learned, but they're short, so it's not going to take you that long to re-record anyway.
Right.
All right, got questions? Keep them coming in the comments below. And don't forget to tune into the next Authortube Writing Channel presentation. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe, and even hit the thanks button. That lets YouTube know that you found this information valuable and they can get it in front of other authors, like us. Now you can go back to watching the Authortube Writing Conference.
All right, that was our stream party. So,
and you can see she's got the audiobook in that corner there.
She changed the end screen videos. Oh my gosh, how devilish. On the ball, really, I should say.
Yeah.
All right. Just a reminder, get those questions in for MK. We've got ours sort of nicely lined up to go. But if you are wondering about audiobooks, she just dropped a bunch and she's here to tell us about them. You ready to come on? Yay.
Hi. Hello.
Welcome. You're like a celebrity now because we've been watching you for an hour.
I feel like a celebrity. Oh my gosh. I feel like, is this what it's like when Mr. Beast reacts to your videos? Like, you're like, oh my gosh, like somebody's reacting on my videos. Like, I must be a real deal person now.
Like the gods reached out.
Videos. Yeah. Also, like the first time when somebody reached out to be like, oh, you're an influencer, can we sponsor a video? And I'm like, people are always asking about my skincare routine. So nobody asked about my skincare routine.
Oh my gosh.
No. Yeah, this was awesome. This was really fun to rewatch. And it was interesting just to hear some of the things you guys were commenting and saying, questions that you already had. So it was fun. Yeah.
Yay. So we've got our questions lined up. My first
See
question.
what Eloise put up.
Oh, I didn't see this. Sorry, I was looking at the other thing.
And now I want to pop up.
You want me to click on it?
My skincare routine always is I'm Irish, so that's why I'm getting so many wrinkles in my mid-30s. That's what you do. You just be Irish out in the world, and then you look like you're 50 when you're mid-30s. You're welcome.
Isn't the secret like the May Day dew? Like you go out in the early morning of May 1st and like pick the dew up from the grass and wash your face, and that the Irish are making
I'll try it on May 1st.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I don't do anything fancy, and yeah, it shows.
So we had some technical questions. I think the first one was about mono versus stereo, and like what I said is that it just seems like black magic to me. But you laid it out in a way that you don't really have to understand it. You just have to like choose the setting for the lowest common denominator.
Yes.
But Shannon had a more specific question about that.
Yeah. So in general, and I kind of said this as a disclaimer at the beginning of that video you guys watch, is I'm not an AV person. Like I'm not an AV expert. And to anybody who's an AV expert who's watching, I'm so sorry, because you are probably just screaming at your computer right now. Like, what are these chicks talking about? But I would say somebody who is a super AV expert, super nerd, you're going to do great self-publishing an audiobook. The people who are obviously watching to learn don't know those things. And so they're kind of along with us, like, I don't know, stereo, mono, just pick one. Just pick one. My understanding is stereo is you could have one voice coming from this speaker and one voice coming from that speaker, and it feels like, oh, I'm in between their dialogue. So cool. But what I heard recommended, because the first time it was like, I got the error, oh, these all need to be mono or stereo. I was like, well, which one's better? I did get some feedback of saying it can be a little jarring if somebody's like in their car and suddenly they're like, where are these voices coming from? Like, or it's going to be squished to be mono anyways. And so always trying to follow the advice of don't try to take the reader or the listener out of the experience. You want the production to be so seamless that they don't even realize they're listening to something that's been produced. And so I was like, I'm just going to go with mono. Just pick mono. Okay. Yeah.
So basically, like on my headphones when I'm walking, listening to audiobooks, that would be, instead of having one voice come out of the right ear and one voice come out of the left ear and have it like a conversation, which I don't necessarily find enjoyable. Anyway, I want both voices go to both earphones and be like, okay, good. Like it doesn't depend on which way I'm facing.
Yeah. And you think about some people, like their earbuds, sometimes like one stops working or like,
yes.
You don't want to.
Technically, like, oh, this is just all in one ear. No, that's my earbud.
Yeah. Yeah. Has that happened to me sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know if mine was so much technical with the duo, the mono. Mine only came in the duo. What do you call that? It's not mono. Stereo. The stereo is both. So that happened when I had a song done and put into my novella. And I wanted to ask about that. What do you know about it? You may not know because you do mostly nonfiction of your narrating, I think, right?
I've also done my fiction, some of my fiction as well. Yeah.
Okay. So do people put songs in their audiobook or do they
sing them?
Say it?
I think it depends. So obviously, and I've done a whole video on songs you don't own. I get so many questions about Disney. And I'm just like, don't put Disney in your book. Disney is the largest IP holder in the world, and you have to have written permission to use their songs.
I've written.
Yeah. Okay. Well, perfect. Oh, okay. Well, then perfect. Yes. So you can do your own. So yes, as long as you own the rights or you have written express permission, you can put a song in there. I would say it's up to you, right? So if you have it fully mastered, fully finished, by all means, like put it in there. And that can even be a great, yes, you will lose against Disney. And that would be a really great bonus, or like, hey, like, don't forget, go online afterwards and download the full song. I think that's an amazing way to like continue to engage. But you don't want it to pull away. And so if the character's singing it and the character's supposed to be like nervous, and like, I don't know how my voice is going to sound, like maybe it should sound different than the final produced song versus if this is supposed to be the most beautiful siren song they've ever heard. Obviously, yes, it should sound that way.
Sirens singing a song.
Yeah. So absolutely. Again, as long as it's not taking away from the experience to the user, I would say absolutely put that in there. I think it's going to be a big benefit. And one of the things that I got a lot of questions about at NINC, which was so interesting because they did ask me to talk about audiobook production, and my audience for my YouTube channel is like new to self-publishing authors, right? Like that's who I'm talking to. And even though I'm more experienced in self-publishing and I have some videos about, hey, updating your backlist, more experienced authors, most of my audience is first timers for doing audiobooks. And so when I was at NINC talking about audiobooks, everybody there knew way more than me. And I was like, why am I up here? And so one thing that I heard that's coming into fashion again is what's called graphic audiobooks, where it's almost like the old-timey radio shows where like, oh, the sergeant knocked on the door, knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
To kind of add more elevated production to it. And so I think adding the song would be amazing. I think then saying, hey, to hear the full song at the end, go download it. I think that's an amazing idea. I did with the interview with a van lifer, which is now available to listen. I did have a few background effects, like there's a wolf howling in the background, but I did make sure it was low enough that it wasn't going to blast anybody's ears and it was supposed to be in the background. So yeah, so I'm all for it. I think that's a great idea.
I really thought about doing that for my audiobook because I have put some chapters on my YouTube channel and I definitely use sound effects, but I thought, well, I don't hear any, but I'm not really an audiobook listener. So I just listened to a few before doing my own and none of them had background effects. So I thought, okay, you're not supposed to do this. So,
I think it depends because a couple years ago was listening to an audiobook version of Misery, of Stephen King's Misery. And it was really good. And I noticed at a certain chapter break and I was like, I think there's suspenseful background music right now. And it's one of those things when you're so in the story, you don't notice it. You just feel that like, oh no, it's about to happen. And then I was like, oh wait, like this is, there's actually music there. So I think sometimes it is so hidden, but I did want to try that out with Interview with the Van Lifer because I heard that that's what people are doing. And I thought it would be really fun and kind of spooky to add. So yeah, thank you for sharing the link.
Yes. Did you want to tell us a little bit about what you dropped yesterday? Because there's like a whole suite of like
I decided to be like Beyonce and Taylor Swift because clearly
I'm
on that same level. And so I did a surprise drop. So I've been teasing the audiobook version of Interview with a Van Lifer for a couple weeks now because I was waiting for edits and I thought, oh, I can definitely get this done. And then of course my edits came back 2 days before everything launched. So that was a horrible idea. So I recorded it. Now this short story came out last year. It came out like a week after my husband and I had to evacuate from a hurricane. And then I had my huge Author Your Ambition workbook launching 2 months later. So in my mind, I was like, I always want to make sure there's an audiobook for my books for accessibility. I prefer, oh, thank you. I always want to make sure I am providing that. And I truly enjoy narrating. I just did not have the time last year. So I used the Google AI audiobook narration just to have an AI version out. I said, I'll get back to it. And it took me a full year. So I narrated it. And I thought, I got a lot of questions at NINC about self-publishing audiobooks on YouTube. And specifically having audiobook specific channels, all the best practices. And I was like, I've actually never published my audiobooks on YouTube. I know that I could, but my whole focus on my channel is not audiobooks. And so I was a little nervous to mix it. And then I thought, why not? I'll make an experiment. So that's what I did yesterday. So I published the full audiobook for Interview with a Van Lifer. It's about an hour and a quarter. And I also did, Escaping Avila Chase. So that one's up there. And so I decided to make it a bit of an experiment and a test. Now it's not a true test because it varies a bit. So we have Interview with a Van Lifer narrated by me, Interview with a Van Lifer narrated by AI, and then the third one is actually Escaping Avila Chase, which is narrated by a professional narrator, Lisa Negron. She does a beautiful job. So to make it a true test, I should have asked her to go back and record Interview with a Van Lifer, but I was like, well, that seems too extra at this point. Yeah. But that way it's available for people to listen to. I would love to hear people's feedback on the AI version versus my version, because I think she obviously sounds like she speaks clearer than I do, but I think I'm bringing better emotion and some of the background sound effects to it. And obviously Lisa did an amazing job with Escaping Avila Chase. But I was testing like, okay, just one full long video versus chapters. So I think it's fun to experiment and see, and I'm hopefully going to report back early next year, mid next year, with how it's working out in terms of engagement. So that was a busy day.
With adding the different sound effects and stuff that you said you did, I missed the one that you did for the Van Lifer one, the one you did. You said you did it. I thought it was just the Google AI one. I thought that was the only one there. Okay, so I'll have to go back and listen to it. I missed it somehow. But you said you put sound effects in that one. Now, would you go back to like to a not AI one, but when you had narrated by someone else and add sound effects to it? Have you thought about doing that, or is that possible?
No, I would probably, when I'm working with them, ask for some of that and ask if they felt comfortable with that, because I obviously want to make sure there was a license for the sound. So I have the Wondershare Filmora membership package, and so I was able to use their sounds native to it instead of going out finding, let me find this royalty-free sound, because earlier this year, some of you who follow my YouTube channel may have noticed that my intro music changed.
Yeah.
Because suddenly my royalty-free intro music was no longer royalty-free. They moved it from the website, and then I started to get all these copyright takedown notices, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the last thing I need to. So I had to change my intro music. So I didn't want to have to be in a position to have to go back and do that with my audiobooks. So I was like, okay, I pay for Wondershare Filmora. I'm using theirs. That's what I'm doing.
So we were talking about how great the intro was as a tool for AWC presentations. Did you have to go back to your all your previous videos and change out intro?
It didn't ding me for all the videos. So I'm thinking what happened is that they probably removed it. I upload on Wednesdays. And so probably between the one Wednesday and the next Wednesday, they probably removed it from the website. And so that next Wednesday, I obviously didn't know, I got dinged. And so it was just like, YouTube gives you the tools, like just mute the copyrighted music and da-da-da. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And they didn't do it for the rest of them. So if any come up, I will obviously just do the YouTube thing and mute it. But it hasn't come up since. So I think that was probably just during that week, they just decided to remove it and not tell anybody.
Yeah, very sneaky.
Yeah.
I do have other questions from from some you said. So when you said you take out some of the dialogue tags, especially if you have like specific character voices, I didn't do that because I had thought I had heard on somewhere else when I was talking about doing audiobooks, and they said that your ebook has to match the audiobook, like for Amazon. I don't know if that's specific to anywhere else, but that's what I heard for Amazon.
I have gotten a lot of questions about that before. And I think I've not been consistent removing that for myself. And I'm not a great voice actor. So I've not done that as much. There's certain times where I'm like, I'm not going to be like, so-and-so yelled. I'm like, oh. So
out Amazon.
Yeah, so I think if you have an incredibly dialogue heavy book, yeah, you probably are going to get dinged on it. But certainly for my nonfiction, I've taken out the things like, as you can see below in this visible graph, I've changed it to say the graph is available for you at authortube.com/da-da-da-da, whatever it is. And I've never been dinged for it. And I think whatever human is QAing it isn't going to be like, oh, well, I've not had that experience yet. Who knows? Maybe if I get more successful and more eyes are on it, then I'll get dinged for it. But I've not been, if you keep it the same, keep it the same. Like, as long as you're consistent throughout the book, I think that's what matters. If you're going through the first half, removing dialogue tags, and the second half, you're like, oh, whatever, I'm tired, something's done. Just be consistent.
Okay. And then I love where you say, smile before you record, because I've heard that lots of times. But what if you're doing like a murder scene?
Then maybe it look like murderous, like get into the act, like even though nobody can see your face, like it's voice acting, right? Like really make sure you're feeling the emotion. Don't start like, so this is a story,
right? Posture. Yep.
Posture, attitude, everything comes into it, and it really shows up in your voice.
Okay.
And you can still, so we were talking a little bit about voice modulation before, and one of my other favorite narrators to follow on TikTok is Natalie Naudis, who does a lot of sci-fi, a lot of like literary, and her voice is very sci-fi. Like, she does these videos that she starts with Stardate 32187. The captain's log has recorded, and she's doing funny family things, like when she's on vacation or out with her kids, whatever. And it's just like, it's very low monotone like this. It's a choice though,
Yes, absolutely. And that's something you'll see with a lot of really good voice actors, is they know when to dial it up and dial it down. And
good stuff.
I think I'm still learning it.
Absolutely. I mean, I learn something new every time I go in and try something new and wanting to challenge myself. And, like I said, I'm not an AV expert. Like I'm learning this with everybody else. And hopefully that's encouraging to people that like, you don't need to be the tech person with all the gadgets and the full setup just to get started. Like, just get started. And especially when you're self-publishing it, I know this might sound daunting, but like, if you go back and listen to your first audiobook years later, you're like, I have a better setup now. I know what I'm doing better. Guess what? You can redo it. Okay, I know it sounds daunting, but
I spent 3 months, 27,000 words.
Yes.
It was a long time just to do 27,000 words. And I was like, hopefully I'll get faster at it. But
I mean, related non-audio question. What do you think about people who go back and revise their earlier works and just like republish changed stories? I remember realizing that Joyce Carol Oates did that. And I was reading a book that had been changed from like 20 years earlier. And I was like, what? Why? What?
I think it depends. So when I released Architects, which was book 2 in my Project Collusion series, I first narrated the Nailbiters audiobook, and I found a lot of things that needed to be fixed. And I don't mean plot things. I mean, I grew as a writer, and I was like, I would have never used this same descriptive word 5 times. Like, come on, MK. Like, Nailbiters was the very first book that I self-published. It was the 3rd book that I wrote. So like, I was still a baby writer. And so I did go back and fix things. And I'm glad for it. I did not change any plot points. I think there was one point where I did change a character description because I realized I had been very remiss in giving that character their full due because I knew they were about to. But I was like, well, let me honor this character's sacrifice and give them a bit more. So it didn't change the plot though. And I don't know if I love the idea of changing the plot. I'm actually going back and retouching my third book that I self-published because it's getting a whole cover makeover because the cover was DIY and so I did go through it. I read it again just to catch any little things. And there were certain things about the character where I was like, somebody could read this and think it's a very like Lemony Snicket narrator type voice, like very much like a satire and like absurdian. And so the characters are supposed to be exaggerations. And it's kind of like, could somebody read this and feel not offended because good literature should offend you to a certain extent and make you think, but, feel really left out and almost like taunted and made fun of if they see themselves in this character. And I thought, well, that's kind of the point is that like the main character is not the good person. So like you're supposed to feel a little off about them. And I kind of wanted to timestamp like who I am as a writer. So that's how I feel on it for my own work. Now I know certain authors have gone back. Like I remember hearing that for Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. When they re-released that, they changed some things because of the time it was written. Certain ways to describe people were maybe accepted that maybe now would not be.
Right.
And I think that was absolutely the right call to say, yes, if you want this to continue to be a perennial classic that resonates with new readers, yeah. If there's been a big update culturally to say that's not okay, to refer to somebody XYZ way or updating even, I think they updated some of the technology in that book because it had definitely gotten outdated. I'm glad that they did that. Well, and obviously that book is talking about like periods and there's a whole new array of products there too that like other outdated products nobody's using. So like they updated that too. So I think that was a very smart move for them to do. So I think it depends. But yeah.
Very cool.
Sorry, that was very long-winded.
No, that's okay.
At the time, so
I've got all my questions asked.
Okay, all my questions asked. I don't think we have any more from the audience that we caught up on. So I've just got like the question for everybody, and maybe we can like drop in the watch list again. Is who should we do next? It's definitely not a roast, as Shanon was saying. It's a stream party. It's a reaction video. It's a review. And hopefully that will help people feel more comfortable about putting their work forward, their expertise forward, their first trembling steps into authorhood forward to be a part of the AWC in 2024. So if you've got ideas, let us know.
You can leave it down in the comments below too if you're catching this on the replay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see who you guys have presenting for the AWC this year. It's exciting to see how much it's grown since the first year and how much it's really brought together the community of traditionally published authors, indie authors, hybrid authors, writing expert. Like it's so great to see everybody coming together. Yeah, I love it. So
I feel like I've discovered so many hybrid authors in the past like 6 months. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, your experience. There's always new stuff to explore and hear about. Very fun.
Oh yeah. Always new things to learn. Always new things to learn. And then the technologies just change all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Like my newsletter yesterday, I talked about, okay, the audiobook drop, and there's some audiobook news that I put in the nonfiction newsletter, and I had scheduled it on Monday or Tuesday afternoon. And not 30 minutes after I scheduled it, I got the email from Findaway Voices of, we're going to allow auto-narrated audiobooks now. And I'm like, unschedule the newsletter.
I saw that too.
minute by minute. Like, thanks a lot. Right.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll close up here. I had some self-control and didn't finish the whole package of Reese's Pieces. I
ate all my popcorn.
Good. But my tea is gone. So, it was a party. It partied. We're all good. Thank you, everyone, for coming by to stream party with us, and presentations in the comments if you've got suggestions or questions. If you are getting ready to apply to AWC 2024, you've got 8 days left. So good luck, everybody.
And I would say thank you, MK, for coming on and being our guinea pig for this new series that we're starting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you guys emailed me, I was like, this sounds fun.
It was perfect timing too, with what you were doing in your professional life, and we had no idea. It just lined up really well.
Yeah, I was one of those things where I was like, I feel like this is like the universe being like, okay, you need to do this. So I was like, all right.
That's my voice in the corner.
Oh, that's why it sounded so familiar.
Dear God, it's me, Margaret.
Yeah, exactly. I talked back. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely rest of the week. Take care.